Homeopathy is the most interesting thing I've come across in 25 years of medicine.
This is the method of healing without side effects.
I've spent 18 years working in a hospital and in my own practice, and this has shown me that homeopathy is the simplest, finest and cleanest method of making people healthy.
For me, homeopathy is the medicine of the future.
The
main criticism of homeopathy is that there's no conclusive evidence, in terms of present-day knowledge, which validates homeopathy in therapy.
Homeopathy is, for me, the best way of healing, and I'm saying that out of my experience, which is having seen already about 200,000 cases the last 40 years of practicing homeopathy.
For Georges Vitulkas, homeopathy is more than a method of healing. Homeopathy is his life. The 66-year-old Greek is considered one of the world's best practitioners of this form of medicine. In 1996, he was awarded the Alternative Nobel Prize. He travels around the world, gives lectures and writes books, and he treats the sick. It doesn't leave him much time for fishing.
Germans do not realize that most probably they have produced the greatest man in history. For me, he will be the greatest individual who benefited the planet.
Georges Vitulkas was talking about the man who founded homeopathy, a method of healing which some swear by and others rigorously reject. Today, no less than 200 years ago. His name, Christian Friedrich Samuel Hahnemann. Born in 1755 in Meissen in the east of Germany. Profession, physician. Samuel Hahnemann has a lot of children and doesn't earn much. To provide for his family, he has to do translations. He's proficient in 7 languages. In his search for work and an affordable place to live, he moves around a great deal. Hahnemann has great reservations about the conventional medicine of his time, which consists mainly of bloodletting and administering emetics and purgatives. He devotes a lot of his time to chemistry. In one test he carries out on himself, he establishes that in a healthy person, the bark of the cinchona tree triggers a kind of fever that resembles malaria. But a substance obtained from this bark, quinine, is used to treat malaria. From this, Hahnemann deduces that the bark causes a kind of pseudo-malaria, and that is why it helps combat the disease itself. And this is how he develops the basic principle of homeopathy. Sibilia, sibilibus, currentur. Like cures like. After countless experiments on himself, he's convinced that sick people should be treated with substances which in healthy people produce similar symptoms to those of the disease in question. In university lecture halls, his findings are largely dismissed. He's not granted the professorship he had been hoping for. Undeterred, Hahnemann continues to develop his systematic method of treatment. He calls it homeopathy, from the Greek homoion pathos, similar suffering. This differentiates it from orthodox medicine, or allopathy, which is aimed at opposing the symptoms of any disease. The remedies carried around in the old pocket first aid kits were made from many different substances. From animal substances, for example, but also from minerals or metals. In that respect, nothing much has changed. Over 60% of all homeopathic agents, on the other hand, are based on fresh or dried plants. This even includes poisonous plants, such as belladonna, deadly nightshade. Medicinal plant gardens don't have to be very big. To produce homeopathic drugs, even tiny quantities are sufficient. First of all, an original tincture is made from the various basic substances. There are about 2,000 different tried and tested homeopathic active agents. In homeopathy, every new agent is first tested on healthy persons. The symptoms ascertained in this way together create a specific drug profile. If a patient exhibits these symptoms, then, according to the homeopathic law of similars, this is the substance that's exactly right for treating them. Making medicaments in line with the strict rules laid down by Samuel Hahnemann involves manual work. The special feature of the process is that the original substance is progressively diluted. Homeopathic practitioners call this potentiating. One part of the original tincture is attenuated by 9 parts of a water-alcohol mixture, and this is shaken up thoroughly 10 times by tapping the container against a firm base. Then 1 part of this is taken and mixed with 9 parts water and alcohol and shaken up, and so on and so forth. After a great deal of potentiating, the result is a bit like the proverbial drop in the ocean. It's virtually impossible to detect even a single molecule of the original tincture anymore. But homeopathic physicians believe that precisely this process of potentiating enhances the remedy's healing power. The special method of shaking up the solution is intended to charge the preparation with energy, to dynamize it. The idea is that the active agent leaves behind a kind of imprint which is stored by the water's memory. Decisive is not the scientifically tangible, but the immaterial aspect, a sort of energy content beyond the threshold of what is provable.
Homeopathy as a therapy does not focus on treating the substance, that's to say the illness. Our approach is not taking something out of the substance, the human material, and making a diagnosis. Instead, we seek out the essence of the sick person and then treat it with a particular medicine, whereby it's not the dilution to the immaterial which represents the immaterial, it's only the potentiating that counts. That's to say, the dynamizing, the powering of the medicine takes place in the essence of the medicine.
The essence or nature of a homeopathic preparation is not measurable, either in liquid or solid form. The active agent is dripped onto what are called globuli, little balls of lactose. The potentiated energy cannot be determined by scientific methods, or not yet, according to homeopathic practitioners. It won't be until sometime in the future that man will be able to establish how this power from nowhere actually functions. For the time being, the advocates of homeopathy are quite content to point to the efficacy of their methods. Homeopathic remedies are much cheaper than comparable medicinal drugs. German companies are among the world's leading producers. From Germany to Alonissos in Greece. Many years ago, George Fitulkas discovered this island in the Aegean for himself and for homeopathy. In 1995, he founded the International Academy of Classical Homeopathy here.
I had to persuade the whole world that this was a valid system of medicine. And not that I have persuaded them now. Still, there's a lot to be done. That this academy is a means, is a tool through which this can be done. So in this academy, I'm able now to give all the knowledge from A to Z in the people who are interested.
Similia similibus correntur, the homeopathic principle as a floor mosaic. This academy is a magnet for physicians and other homeopathic practitioners from all over the world.
Here corresponds on this line. That means if you push this element on this line, it will go inside.
Georges Vitulkas wants to improve the standard of homeopathic training because he regards it as often inadequate at present, not governed by any uniform rules. In the past, the Greek expert was rejected even within the homeopathic community because he's not a qualified physician. Nowadays, though, he's accepted and recognized, even without a doctor's title. Georges Vitulkas initiated a renaissance of homeopathy, and the fact that it's so widespread today is also thanks, at least partly, to him.
Then the body does not have any more that possibility.
He's a representative of classical homeopathy, based directly on Hahnemann's own teachings. Today, there are also various other schools. The participants in this seminar study individual cases, examine the symptoms, and try to determine the appropriate homeopathic remedy. One of the participants is a physician from Germany. Dr. Inge Göpfert-Geier back in her joint practice in Berlin. She's been working as a pediatrician for over 20 years. In the past few years, she's become increasingly interested in homeopathy. Only 1% of doctors in Germany are pure homeopathic practitioners. A good homeopathic physician has to complete many years of training. It's a method which requires intensive study. But in fact, many non-homeopathic doctors also prescribe homeopathic preparations without first acquiring the necessary expertise. Dr. Göpfert-Geier spent ages looking for an alternative to orthodox medicine. She had increasing doubts about the wisdom of conventional methods of treatment and conventional medicinal drugs.
What I observe again and again if I have to administer conventional medicinal drugs on a frequent basis is that they have side effects. For example, a child with chronic inflammation of the ear or with pneumonia, if it's given antibiotics again and again, it gradually loses its powers of resistance. It becomes ill again more quickly, and frequently it also suffers emotionally. On the other hand, when I choose the right homeopathic remedy, the child not only loses this chronic sickness, the child also becomes emotionally healthier as well.
Motivated by such observations, Dr. Göpfert-Geier is using homeopathic methods of treatment more and more. For example, with 8-year-old Yannick and his sister. Since birth, both children have suffered from neurodermatitis. After treatment with a homeopathic remedy, their chronic eczema disappeared. And the interesting thing is that both children were given a different homeopathic preparation.
Hustet nachts am meisten? Nur nachts. Können Sie mir Uhrzeit sagen?
Finding the most appropriate remedy entails long discussions in which the doctor asks detailed questions about all the symptoms. Everything is carefully noted down. It's not just Yannick's eczema that disappeared, so too did his extreme timidity. Ideally, homeopathic treatment influences not just the body, but also the mind and the soul. The homeopathic agent is meant to act as an intermediary substance, stimulating the body's powers of self-healing. Under the German Health